So we will start with the preface first. So I will just share my screen. Preface. We must know the present need of human society. And what is that need? Human society is no longer bounded by geographical limits to particular countries or communities. Human society is broader than in the Middle Ages, and the world tendency is toward one state or one human society. The ideals of spiritual communism, according to Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, are based more or less on the oneness of the entire human society, nay, of the entire energy of living beings. The need is felt by great thinkers to make this a successful ideology. Śrīmad Bhāgavatam will fill this need in human society. It begins, therefore, with an aphorism of Vedanta philosophy, Janmadi Ashriyataha, to establish the ideal of a common cause. Human society at the present moment is not in the darkness of oblivion. It has made rapid progress in the fields of material comforts, education, economic development throughout the entire world. But there is a pinprick somewhere in the social body at large, and therefore there are large scale quarrels, even over less important issues. There is need of a clue to how humanity can become one in peace, friendship, and prosperity with a common cause. Srimad Bhagavatam will fill this need, for it is a cultural presentation for the re-spiritualization of the entire human society. Srimad Bhagavatam should be introduced also in schools and colleges, for it is recommended by the great student devotee Prahlad Maharaj in order to change the demoniac face of society. Homaryo Acharat Pragyo Dharman Bhagavatamiha Durlabam Manusham Janma Tadapi Adrubam Arthadam uh, from 7.6.1. Disparity in human society is due to lack of principles in godless civilization. There is God, or the Almighty One, from whom everything emanates, by whom everything is maintained, and in whom everything is most to rest. Material sciences try to find the ultimate source of creation very insufficiently, but it is a fact that there is a one ultimate source of everything, that be. This ultimate source is explained rationally and authoritatively in the beautiful Bhagavatam or Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam is a transcendental science not only for knowing the ultimate source of everything, but also for knowing our relations with Him and our duty toward perfection of the human society on the basis of this perfect knowledge. It is powerful reading matter in the Sanskrit language, and it is now rendered into English elaborately, so that simply by a careful reading one will know God perfectly well. So much so that the reader will be sufficiently educated to defend himself from the onslaught of atheists. Over and above this, the reader will be able to convert others to accepting God as a concrete principle. Srimad Bhagavatam begins with the definition of the ultimate source. It is a bona fide commentary on the Vedanta Sutra by the same author, Srila Vyasadeva, and gradually it develops into 9 cantos up to the highest state of God realization. The only qualification one needs to study this great book of transcendental knowledge is to proceed step by step, cautiously, and not jump forward absurdly as with an ordinary book. It should be gone through chapter by chapter, one after another. The reading matter is so arranged with the original Sanskrit text, its English transliteration, synonyms, translation, and purports, so that one is sure to become a God realized soul at the end of finishing the first 9 cantos. The 10th canto is distinct from the first 9 cantos because it deals directly with the transcendental activities of the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. one will be unable to capture the effects of the 10th canto without going through the first 9 cantos. The book is complete in 12 cantos, each independent, but it is good for all to read them in small installments, one after another. I must admit my frailties presenting Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, but still I'm hopeful of its good reception by the thinkers and leaders of society on the strength of the following statement of Śrīmad Bhāgavatam 1.5.11. Talbhaga Vishargoj Yantam Hya Viplavo Yashmin Prati Slokam Avadhyati Api Namani Anantasya Yashorektani Srinvanti Gayanti Grananti Sattva. On the other hand, the literature is full of description of the transcendental glories of the name, fame, form, and pastimes of the unlimited Supreme Lord is a transcendental creation meant for bringing about a revolution in the impious life of a misdirected civilization. Such transcendental literature, even though irregularly composed, is heard, sung, and accepted by purified men who are thoroughly honest. Om Tat Sat. Eshi Bhakti Vedanta Swami. Now we will move to the forward. So this one forward I will be reading from the book itself. I don't see it is there in the database. So I will be sharing that forward with all of you. So let's read forward then. This Bhagavat Purana is as brilliant as the sun, and it has arisen just after the departure of Lord Krishna to his own abode, accompanied by religion, knowledge, etc. Persons who have lost their reason due to the dense darkness of ignorance in the age of Kali shall get light from this Purana. Śrīmad Bhāgavatam 1.3.43. The timeless wisdom of India is expressed in the Vedas, ancient Sanskrit texts that touch upon all fields of human knowledge. Originally preserved through oral tradition, the Vedas were first put into writing 5,000 years ago by Srila Vyasadeva, the literary incarnation of God. After compiling the Vedas, Vyasadeva set forth their essence in the aphorisms known as Vedanta Sutras. Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, Bhagavat Purana, is Vyasadeva's commentary on his own Vedanta Sutras. It was written in the maturity of his spiritual life under the direction of Narada Muni, his spiritual master. Referred to as the ripened fruit of the tree of Vedic literature, Śrīmad Bhāgavatam is the most complete and authoritative exposition of Vedic knowledge. After compiling the Bhagavatam, Vyasa imparted the synopsis of it to his son, the sage Sukadeva Goswami. Sukadeva Goswami subsequently recited the entire Bhagavatam to Maharaj Parikshit in an assembly of learned saints on the bank of the Ganges at Hastinapur, now Delhi. Maharaj Parikshit was the emperor of the world and was a great Rajarshi, saintly king. Having received a warning that he would die within a week, he renounced his entire kingdom and retired to the bank of the Ganges to fast until death and pursue spiritual enlightenment. The Bhagavatam begins with Emperor Parikshit's solemn inquiry to Sukadeva Goswami. You are the spiritual master of great saints and devotees, and therefore begging you to show the way of perfection for all persons, and especially for one who is about to die. Please let me know what a man should hear, chant, remember, and worship, and also what he should not do. Please explain all this to me. Sukadeva Goswami's answer to this question and numerous other questions posed by Maharaj Parikshit concerning everything from the nature of the self to the origin of the universe held the assembled sages in rapt attention continuously for the 7 days leading up to the king's death. The says Sutta Goswami, who was present in the assembly when Sukadev Goswami first recited Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, later repeated the Bhagavatam before a gathering of sages in the forest of Naimisharanya. Those sages concerned about the spiritual welfare of the people in general had gathered to perform a long continuous chain of sacrifices to counteract the degrading influence of the incipient age of Kali. In response to the sages' request that he speak the essence of Vedic wisdom, Sutta Goswami repeated from memory the entire 18,000 verses of Srimad Bhagavatam as spoken by Sutta Goswami to Maharaj Parikshit. The reader of Śrīmad Bhāgavatam hears Sutta Goswami relate the questions of Maharaj Parikshit and the answers of Sukadeva Goswami. Also, Sutta Goswami sometimes responds directly to questions put by Saunaka Rishi, the spokesman for the sages gathered at Naimisharanya. One therefore simultaneously hears two dialogues, one between Maharaj Parikshit and Sukadeva Goswami on the bank of the Ganges, and another at Naimisharanya between Sutta Goswami and the sages at Naimisharanya forest, headed by Saunaka Rishi. Furthermore, while instructing King Parikshit, Sukadeva Goswami often relates historical episodes and gives accounts of lengthy philosophical discussions between such great souls as Narada Muni and Vasudev. With this understanding of this history of the Bhagavatam, the reader will easily be able to follow the intermingling of dialogues and events from various sources. Since philosophical wisdom, not chronological order, is most important in the text, one need only be attentive to the subject matter of Srimad Bhagavatam to appreciate fully its profound message. The translators of this edition compare the Bhagavatam to sugar candy. Wherever you taste it, you will find it equally sweet and relishable. Therefore, to taste the sweetness of the Bhagavatam, one may begin by reading any of its volumes. After such an introductory test, however, the serious reader is best advised to go back to the first canto and then proceed to the Bhagavatam, canto after canto. It is in its natural order. This edition of the Bhagavatam is the first complete English translation of this important text with an elaborate commentary, and it is the first widely available to the English speaking public. The first 12 volumes, Canto 1 to Canto 10, Part 1, are the product of the scholarly, devotional effort of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness and the world's most distinguished teacher of Indian religious and philosophical thought. His consummate Sanskrit scholarship and intimate familiarity with Vedic culture and thought, as well as the modern way of life, combined to reveal the West a magnificent exposition of this important classic. After the departure of Srila Prabhupada from this world in 1977, his monumental work of translating and annotating Srimad Bhagavatam has been continued by his disciples Hridayanand Das Goswami and Gopi Karanadhan Das. Readers will find this work of value for many regions. For those interested in the classical roots of Indian civilization, it serves as a vast reservoir of detailed information on virtually every one of its aspects. For students of comparative philosophy and religion, the Bhagavatam offers a penetrating view into the meaning of India's profound spiritual heritage. To sociologists and anthropologists, the Bhagavatam reveals the practical workings of a peaceful and scientifically organized Vedic culture, whose institutions were integrated on the basis of a highly developed spiritual worldview. Students of literature will discover the Bhagavatam to be a masterpiece of majestic poetry. For students of psychology, the text provides important perspectives on the nature of consciousness, human behavior, and the philosophical study of identity. Finally, to those seeking spiritual insight, the Bhagavatam offers simple and practical guidance for attainment of the highest self knowledge and realization of the absolute truth. The entire multi-volume text presented by the Bhaktivedanta Book Trust promises to occupy a significant place in the intellectual, cultural, and spiritual life of a modern man for a long time to come, the publishers. Then now we will move to the introduction, that we will read it from the Vedabase itself. So it is a long one. We cannot complete it in one day. Maybe it will take 3 to 4 days to complete. Total, we have approximately 37 pages, the introduction itself. So now come back to our Veda base. So where exactly we have read the preface. Now I have read the foreword. Now I will be moving to the introduction piece. The conception of God and the conception of absolute truth are not on the same level. The Śrīmad Bhāgavatam hits on the target of the absolute truth. The conception of God indicates the controller, whereas the conception of absolute truth indicates the Sammam Punam, or the ultimate source of all energies. There is no difference of opinion about the personal feature of God as a controller, because a controller cannot be impersonal. To repeat again, there is no difference of opinion about the personal feature of God as a controller, because a controller cannot be impersonal. Of course, modern government, especially the democratic government, is impersonal to some extent, but ultimately the chief executive head is a person, and the impersonal feature of government is subordinate to the personal feature. So, without a doubt, whenever we refer to control over others, we must admit the existence of a personal feature, because there are different controllers for different managerial positions. There may be many small gods. According to the Bhagavad Gita, any controller who has some specific extraordinary power is called Vibhutimat Sattva, or controller empowered by the Lord. There are many Vibhutimat Sattvas, controllers or gods with various specific powers, but the absolute truth is one without a second. This Śrīmad Bhāgavatam designates the absolute truth, or the Sammam Bonam is the Param Satyam. The author of Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, Srila Vyasadeva, first offers his respectful obeisances on the Param Satyam, absolute truth, and because the Param Satyam is the ultimate source of all energies, the Param Satyam is the supreme person. The gods or the controllers are undoubtedly persons, but the Param Satyam from whom the gods derive powers of control is the supreme person. The Sanskrit word Iswara, controller, conveys the import of God, but the supreme person is called the Parameshwara, or the supreme Iswara. The supreme person or Parameshwar is the supreme conscious personality, and because he doesn't derive any power from any other source, he is supremely independent. In the Vedic literature, Brahma is described as the supreme god, or the head of all other gods like Indra, Chandra, and Varuna. But the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam confirms that even Brahma is not independent as far as his power and knowledge are concerned. He received knowledge in the form of the Vedas from the Supreme Person who resides within the heart of every living being. That Supreme Personality knows everything directly and indirectly. Individual infinitesimal persons who are parts and parcels of the Supreme Personality may know directly and indirectly everything about their bodies or external features. But the Supreme Personality knows everything about both his external and internal features. Next paragraph, the words Janmadi Asya suggest that the source of all production, maintenance, or destruction is the same Supreme Conscious Person. Even in our present experience, we can know that nothing is generated from inert matter, but inert matter can be generated from the living entity. For instance, by contact with a living entity, the material body develops into a working machine. Men with a poor fond of knowledge mistake the bodily machinery to be the living being, but the fact is that the living being is the basis of the bodily machine. The bodily machine is useless as soon as the living spark is away from it. Similarly, the original source of material energy is the Supreme Person. This fact is expressed in all the Vedic literatures, and all the exponents of spiritual science have accepted the truth. The living force called Brahman, and one of the greatest Acharya teachers, named Sripad Sankaracharya, has preached that Brahman is substance, whereas the cosmic world is category. The original source of all energies is the living force, and he is logically accepted as the supreme person. He is therefore conscious of everything past, present, and future, and also of each and every corner of his manifestations, both material and spiritual. An imperfect living being doesn't even know what is happening within his own personal body. He eats this food but doesn't know how this food is transformed into energy or how it sustains his body. When a living being is perfect, he is aware of everything that happens, and since the Supreme Person is all perfect, it is quite natural that he knows everything in all detail. Consequently, the perfect personality is addressed in the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam is Vasudeva, or one who leads everywhere in full consciousness and in full position of of his complete energy. All of this is clearly explained in the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, and the reader has ample opportunity to study this critically. In the modern age of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu preached the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam by practical demonstration. It is easy to penetrate into the topics of Śrīmad Bhāgavatam through the medium of Sri Chaitanya's causeless mercy. Therefore, a short sketch of his life and precepts is inserted herein to help the reader understand the real merit of Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. It is imperative that one learn the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam from the person Bhāgavatam. The person Bhāgavatam is one whose very life is Śrīmad Bhāgavatam in practice. Since Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the absolute personality of Godhead, that is, he is both Bhagavan and Bhagavatam, in person and in sound. Therefore, his process of approaching Śrīmad Bhāgavatam is practical for all people of the world. It was his wish that the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam be preached in every nook and corner of the world by those who happen to take their birth in India. The Śrīmad Bhāgavatam is the science of Krishna, the absolute personality of Godhead, of whom we have preliminary information from the text of the Bhagavad Gita. The Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has said, Sri, let me give authorized picture and the of Krishna. So, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has said that anyone, regardless of what he is, who is well versed in the science of Krishna, Śrīmad Bhāgavatam and Bhagavad Gita, has become an authorized teacher of or preceptor in the science of Krishna. There is a need for the science of Krishna in human society for the good of all suffering humanity and for the good of all suffering humanity of the world. And we simply request the readers of all nations to pick up this science of Krishna for their own good and for the good of society and for the good of all the world's people. So we will stop here today, and in the next session we will start with a short sketch of life and teachings of Lord Chaitanya, the preacher of Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. So we'll stop here. Hare Krishna.